Good evening and thank you for joining us. Thunder Bay Fire Rescue officials have determined the cause of yesterday's major house fire on Simpson Street. Investigators say the blaze broke out as a result of careless smoking by the building's lone occupant. Firefighters were called to the scene just after 6:30 in the evening after neighbors heard shouting from the home's only tenant, who made it out safely. 5 pumper trucks, 1 pumper rescue, 1 aerial ladder, and the command unit were called to the blaze. Flames jumped from the upstairs bedroom into the attic, where it quickly spread through the roof. The stubborn blaze was eventually put out by fire crews around midnight. Captain Kevin Anderson says the cause was easy to pinpoint after a conversation with the occupants.
He did say that he was smoking in bed, some ashes got into the mattress, it did start fire. He did try to put it out for many minutes, which we strongly do not recommend because the fire was able to grow. So if you ever have a fire in your bedroom or mattress, basically close the door, get outside, call 911, and then we can take care of it.
Anderson adds that Ontario has seen a rise in fire-related deaths so far this year. He says in all of those cases there were a lack of working smoke alarms. A long-time mystery involving a pair of stolen Norval-Morisseau paintings has a happy ending. The artwork, which was stolen from Confederation College 40 years ago, has finally been returned. Back in 2018, local college officials were contacted by a Toronto-based art curator who recognized the stolen paintings after a colleague in Quebec offered to sell them to her. This launched an investigation involving Thunder Bay Police, the Sûreté du Québec, and the head of public safety at Confederation College. Together, they were able to locate photos that identified the same paintings that were on the walls at the college in the 70s. The paintings are now back in Thunder Bay, and officials with the college and the art gallery are happy to have them back home.
It's a great day for the community. It's wonderful that the college was able to facilitate the return of this work. I think it'll have a real impact that they can come back here to Thunder Bay after so many years away.
Norval-Morisseau is obviously from the Thunder Bay area, and it's a great success story here for the college and for the community and the Indigenous community here to have these paintings finally back where they belong, and for people to be able to go and view these paintings. They're beautiful paintings.
The 2 stolen paintings will be unveiled at the college once in-person public events are allowed. The artwork will later be added to the Norval-Morisseau collection at the Thunder Bay Art Gallery, which will grow to 119 paintings and prints. That collection, including the 2 stolen pieces, will be available for public viewing later this spring. 2 Toronto teens were arrested at a Cumming Street home yesterday after they were found to be in possession of a drug-dealing cheat sheet, as well as cash and other drug trafficking paraphernalia. The 16 and 17-year-old males had a piece of paper with tips on how to become a good drug dealer. The accused first gave Thunder Bay police officers fake names before their true identities were confirmed. It's never been easier to get the COVID-19 vaccine here in Thunder Bay. The district health unit has completely switched to walk-in appointments rather than online bookings. Meanwhile, the district's medical officer of health feels the region is now past the peak of the Omicron wave, but case counts are still dropping more slowly than she'd like. Corey Nordstrom explains.
Getting immunized against COVID-19 for all ages no longer requires an appointment at the CLE clinics. About 57% of adults in the Thunder Bay district have now received a booster shot, which Dr. Janet DeMille hopes can improve with the walk-in format, something they couldn't do when they were busier.
Now our numbers in terms of appointments are much less, and we are basically opening it up for anybody who's eligible for a vaccine to come forward and get one. We have found in the past that when we make walk-ins available, it does make it easier for people.
The Northwestern Health Unit has stated that it will soon reduce the number of large vaccination clinics it runs. DeMille says that is not the case here in Thunder Bay, and the vaccination sites will run until it is no longer necessary, even though more targeted clinics are on the horizon.
Looking in particular to areas where they may have had trouble accessing vaccine and just essentially bringing the vaccine to them rather than having them come to our clinic.
Using a number of metrics, the health unit has narrowed down the peak of the local Omicron wave to the end of the second week in January. But there hasn't been much of a drop in the level of COVID infections since that time.
It doesn't feel like we're fully into recovering from this current surge. We're not at the peak that we were once at, but we still are experiencing a substantial number of cases and outbreaks as well. And certainly we see how this is manifesting in the hospitals.
Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
The number of COVID-19 patients at the Thunder Bay Regional Health Sciences Center hasn't changed since yesterday, but there's now one more COVID patient in the ICU. The hospital is treating 51 infected patients, with 8 in intensive care. The overall hospital occupancy rate has risen to 98.5%, and ICU occupancy has risen to more than 86%. No daily COVID-19 information is available today for Northwestern Ontario. The Thunder Bay District Health Unit and Northwestern Health Unit now only report new cases on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Ontario is reporting 2,797 patients in hospital today. That's down from more than 3,600 a week ago. 541 people are currently being treated in intensive care. The province also reported another 75 deaths. This coming just days after public health restrictions were eased across the province.
We're trending in the right direction. We know reopening the economy could lead to some rough times in February as we have increased socialization and increased risk to transmission, but we'll monitor that, and we've built good hospital capacity for February. So I think January was tough. February will be better. I do see things improving further in March, and then hopefully a low endemic rate in April.
Moore also says that Ontario needs to reassess the value of its COVID-19 vaccine passport system in the coming weeks to decide if that should come to an end. City Councillor Aldo Roberto is responding to an Integrity Commissioner's report that concluded he breached the Municipal Code of Conduct and should be suspended for 5 days without his council salary. Roberto issued a written statement today saying he, quote, strongly disagrees with the findings. It all stems from an incident in October when a pickup truck ran over a tent at a local homeless encampment. Luckily, no one was inside at the time. The culprit was charged with dangerous driving. Roberto posted on Facebook soon after saying he hoped it was a case of the wind blowing the tent into the moving truck. Other Facebook users were upset with him speculating on a crime. That led to a war of words online, and several people claim Roberto blocked them. The 16-page report outlines a number of concerns with Roberto's online conduct, along with the suspension. It recommends social media training for all councillors. Roberto says the way his original Facebook post was interpreted is, quote, very unreasonable, and he says he'll continue to block those on Facebook who repeatedly harass him. Roberto adds he'll address the issue at City Council on Monday night. The Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce held its annual general meeting today, where officials outlined their new strategic plan. And Chamber members also got to hear from a special guest at the virtual event, Canadian Chamber CEO Perrin Beatty. Basilios Bellows reports.
The virtual AGM had a strong focus on pandemic recovery and supporting businesses during these difficult times. A presentation surrounding the new strategic plan outlined the Chamber's goals for the upcoming 3 years. Chair of the board Riley Burton provided the details and stressed that their values have remained consistent.
In reality, we're keeping on the same track, and that's noted with the same mission. Together, we are the catalyst for a stronger business community, and our vision continues as we position business to prosper and grow.
The floor was then handed over to keynote speaker and CEO of the Canadian Chamber, Perrin Beatty. He praised the work done by Thunder Bay's Chamber throughout the pandemic and stressed that higher levels of government play a massive factor in business support.
Canada's municipalities have really contributed enormously to the fight against COVID and to have provided enormous support to small businesses across the country. And I think we have to recognize that your fiscal capacity is much more limited than that of senior levels of government. So these levels of government have to be there to support you.
Attracting new workers and talented entrepreneurs to Thunder Bay is always something on the local chamber's radar. Beatty went on to state the city has been taking important steps to achieve this, involving themselves in some important projects.
A community can't grow if it can't attract talent. Charlotte and her team have been leaders in addressing this issue at the local level, acting as a driving force between Thunder Bay being behind Thunder Bay being one of the 11 cities to be part of the rural and northern immigration pilot.
The strategic plan put forward by the Thunder Bay Chamber looks ahead to 2025. Vasilios Bellows, TBT News.
Keноra's Conservative MP says he wasn't surprised by yesterday's party caucus vote that saw Erin O'Toole go from current to former leader of the party. O'Toole needed at least 51% support to survive. Instead, 73 of 119 Conservative MPs voted to oust him. Many cited his performance in last year's election and flip-flopping on key party issues. Eric Melillo supported O'Toole when he campaigned for the leadership in 2020 following the removal of Andrew Scheer. Melillo says despite less than 1% of the overall party making the final decision, he believes and respects that party rules were followed. Melillo also doesn't believe this week's events have created a rift, noting the hardest part is now over.
And obviously, there are some disagreements on what our path forward is. I think that's that debate and that discussion is healthy. I think that's what we need in a democracy. But I'm confident we'll come together, united under Candice Bergen as the interim leader, and of course we'll rally around whoever is going to be elected leader later on.
Melillo doesn't know when a new full-time leader will be chosen and says he hasn't been approached by anyone looking for his support just yet. It was a pretty good payday for the marathon man who won last month's Thunder Bay 50-50 draw last week in support of the Regional Health Sciences Foundation. Dan Sullivan drove to Thunder Bay today to pick up the big check for just over $680,000. He's been a regular ticket buyer since the popular fundraiser began. Sullivan says he was stunned when he found out he won. He wants to use some of the money to help the hospital.
It's crucial that, anybody that can give back a little money to science, as we are witnessing now, it's well spent. So definitely, and we'll keep buying tickets left, right, and center.
It never gets old. Making those phone calls are the best part of the month. Also handing out the checks, talking to Dan and Tina, just their excitement. It's wonderful. This has brought a lot of joy to people's lives.
The jackpot is great news for the winners, but also for the hospital as proceeds help buy new life-saving equipment. Tickets for the February draw are currently on sale. The deadline to buy is Thursday, the 24th. Well, if you missed any of today's local stories or you'd like to watch them over again, you can find them on tbnewswatch.com under the TBT News Stories section. You can also follow us on social media. Facebook users can find TBT News at TBT News T.Bay, and on Twitter, we can be found at TBT News _T.Bay. Well, Fiona